let's talk about the switch statement. So the switch statement is like an if-else statement, but instead of using if and else, we are using switch. So switch can only be done on integral data types. So that means you can only use it on things like integers, longs, characters, booleans, but you cannot use it on things like floating point numbers or strings. So this is the general syntax of how a switch statement looks. And it will test some expression. So you would test, say, for a character, and then you would have some cases. And if, say, you're testing for a character, if that character is, say, we would put like an A here, that would mean we're testing if this is an A, we're going to do whatever statements follow. And one thing that's different with switch statements is inside the cases, instead of using opening and closing curly braces to do blocks of statements, you have an opening colon and an ending break. So you can think of this colon right here as your opening curly brace, and you can think of this break as your closing curly brace, and then you can have as many statements as you want where it says statements here. So this could really just be statements for all of these. And then you can have like another case, so say like B, and then so on and so forth all the way. Like if you were doing like the whole lowercase alphabet, I guess you would have up to Z, and then doing some statements. And then you can have a default. So like if they enter an uppercase character, or if they enter a number or a punctuation mark, then we want to do some default thing, which usually would be like an error. So here's a nice big chart that kind of explains the flow of all of this. See, so you're going to come in from your program into an expression, just like right here. And then it's going to test that expression, and it's going to check it against these cases. If one of these cases is equal to this expression, then it's going to execute the statements that follow. So the things that follow inside here. Anything between the colon and the break. And once it finds a case and executes its statements, once it hits a break, it will fall out and go to an end point up until it finds the default, where it will just default to doing some default statements and will just meet up where any of the other cases would have gone to. So let us look at this as an example in our programs. So here's a program that is very simple right now. It's just taking in a selection from the user, a character selection, and then we have some numbers. So let's add in a switch statement to help us process this selection. So we can have a switch, and then we're going to switch on that selection. We can then have, say, we're looking for uppercase and lowercase a and uppercase and lowercase s. So we could have some cases like case A, or we could have case lowercase a, and then we could have case uppercase s, and then case lowercase s. And then we also have our default case. And in these cases, when we're done with each of them, we need to break from our case. We don't need to break from the default because default is the end. Once it's done, it will just go here. Because if we don't add these breaks here, then it's just going to continue on from like if I don't have a break here in this capital S, it will do whatever code follows in the lowercase s. But we'll look at that here in just a minute. So if it's an A, then we want to obviously add. So let's add in some code to add the two numbers up here. So that would look just like this. And then if they enter in an S, we want to subtract. So let's add in code to subtract, which would look like this. So, and then if they don't enter in something, we want to, or if they enter in something that's not A or S, we want to just output invalid entry. Let's save that, come over here. We can compile our program with g++ example.cpp -w all -pedantic. We can then run our program with /a.out, and you see if I put A, I get the numbers added. If I put lowercase a, I get the numbers added. If I do uppercase s, I get the numbers subtracted. If I do lowercase s, I get the numbers subtracted. And if I do anything else like E, I get invalid entry. If I do like a number, I get invalid entry. If I do punctuation, I get invalid entry. Anything I put in there other than these four things will output invalid entry. So we can clean this up a little bit because, as I said, if we don't put in this break case, then whatever happens, whatever you have in here will execute, and then it will just continue on to the next case. So let's see that in action. We can take out this break, and if you see, this and this are the exact same line of code, so we can also take this out, effectively making it so if this or this happens, then we're just going to do this. So if I save, come over here, compile my program, and then run it, you see when I add A, I still get addition. So we can do that same thing with subtraction. But let's make with subtraction a point of showing this, because if you see, if I take away the break in subtraction, save, come over here, compile, and run my program, when I do subtract, you see I get the subtraction and the invalid entry because I forgot to put a break here. So it doesn't break out of the switch statement and it just continues on to the default statement. So when I add in that break, save, compile, and run, you see when I put in S, I get just the subtraction that I want. And that's about all you need to know about switch statements.